Welcome to Andre's Insight, where clarity meets curiosity. So today we're doing a deep dive into something really practical, actually. It's, the science of rewriting your own story, your personal story. And our mission here, it isn't just like talking about motivation in a vague way. It's really about synthesizing those practical, science-backed strategies for personal transformation. We want to focus on how these internal tools, we all have things like structured writing, visualization, how they can create actual measurable change in your life. Think of it as maybe a shortcut to getting really well informed on the sort of mental mechanics behind intentional growth.
That's exactly right. Yeah. We're exploring that intersection of, well, self-reflection, psychology, and importantly, measurable behavior change. And we're definitely moving beyond that kind of tired idea that we're just fixed by our past, that old deterministic view. The core insight, the thing we really want you to leave with today, is that your current actions, your choices right now, they aren't just driven by history. They're actively pulled forward by the intentional identity you craft for your future self. It's a really remarkable psychological leverage point, using the future to reshape the present.
Hmm. Being pulled forward by intentionality. I find that incredibly powerful. But it does raise a question for me. Isn't there maybe a risk,
Mm-hmm.
of creating this future self that's just unattainable? And does that maybe lead to more dissatisfaction right now? We need the tools, right, to make that vision actually actionable.
That's a really valid challenge, yeah. And that's exactly why structure is so important here. What we're discussing today, it gives you that structure. It helps bridge that gap you mentioned. We want the future self to be an aspiration, definitely, not an antagonist making you feel bad.
Perfect. Okay, so let's unpack this transformation toolkit then. We've kind of organized this deep dive around three, let's say, core pillars. First up, we're covering the power of structured writing journaling as this fundamental science-backed tool for insight, maybe even healing. Second, we'll really dive deep into that psychological shift, from setting just result goals to establishing powerful identity goals. Big difference there. And then finally, we'll break down the practical frameworks, things like the really effective WOP method for getting past those frustrating internal obstacles, the ones procrastination, self-doubt, the stuff that always seems to sabotage our best intentions.
Exactly. Let's start right there with the foundation. Journaling. It does often get dismissed, doesn't it? Like it's just a childhood diary thing or something. But when we talk about journaling here, we mean something much more purposeful, focused. It's really a rigorous cognitive tool. Journaling serves these dual purposes. It's a tool for self-discovery, yes, but also a mechanism for productivity. And it needs to be molded, to suit what you need right now. Maybe it's an emotional refuge, maybe a source of creativity, or even just a strict productivity log.
That distinction is so crucial. I like thinking of it as a cognitive mirror. It forces those internal thoughts that, racing chaotic stream inside your head onto paper or screen, into a concrete form. And that externalization, just getting it out, that provides immediate cognitive relief sometimes. But the real juice, the real benefits, they're found in what that writing style lets us process, specifically expressive writing.
Absolutely. Expressive writing, it's a technique used a lot in research, clinical settings too, originally championed by James Pennebaker. And it involves intentionally, deliberately delving into deep, maybe painful, challenging, or even traumatic experiences and writing about them continuously for a set time, like 15, 20 minutes, without stopping or editing yourself, just pure flow. And the data on this, it's really compelling. Studies consistently show this kind of writing leads to improved emotional processing. Also, a measurable reduction in psychological distress, and remarkably, it's even been linked to physical health improvements.
Physical health, like what?
Things like enhanced immune function, or even people reporting fewer doctor visits after doing it consistently.
Wow. Okay, it still seems a bit counterintuitive, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Writing about painful stuff makes you feel better. What's actually happening inside the brain when we do that kind of deep processing?
Yeah, it's fascinating. It seems to kick off this neurological feedback loop. There was one study specifically looked at expressive writing about past failures, not just general trauma, failures we all experience. And they found participants who did this showed increased activation in a brain area called the mid-cingulate cortex, the MCC. This increased activation showed up during subsequent, totally unrelated learning tasks.
The mid-cingulate cortex.
Yeah.
MCC. What does that part of the brain usually do?
It's critical for several things: cognitive control, even pain perception, but crucially, error correction and processing negative emotion.
Okay, so if the MCC is firing up more strongly after writing about failure, when you then try to learn something new, what does that actually imply for behavior? What's the benefit?
Well, it suggests that the act of writing about the failure, it might fundamentally rewire how the brain handles negative input later on. So instead of that avoidance response,
Hmm.
trying to forget the failure or shying away from a similar task, the increased MCC activation suggests the brain is better equipped to process that negative outcome as, well, valuable feedback, not just a threat. It seems to improve behavior flexibility, self-monitoring. You're basically moving the brain from an emotional reactive state about failure to a more cognitive corrective state. It's actual measurable neural change we're seeing, not just a fleeting shift in mood.
That's incredible. So writing is literally like a brain exercise,
Yeah.
changing the hardware. Now, what about the other side? We also have research on writing about positive things, right? What's the difference between that expressive writing, EW, and positive writing, or PW?
Right, positive writing, PW. That involves focusing on positive experiences, maybe future hopes, gratitude, things like that. And there was a meta-analysis comparing PW groups to EW groups, and it showed some interesting results for mood. While EW is super powerful for processing those deep issues, the EW group often experienced a temporary increase in negative emotions right after writing.
Which makes sense, right? You're dredging up difficult stuff.
Exactly. It stirs up painful memories temporarily.
So for the general population, maybe if you're not actively processing a specific trauma, maybe focusing too much on deeply painful topics might backfire a bit in the short term. Mood-wise,
It certainly suggests that could happen.
Yep.
Yeah. If you're generally doing okay, PW might be a more reliable way to boost mood and positive feelings without that temporary dip you might get from EW. But there's a third technique, kind of a blend, that's really useful: self-compassion writing. This involves writing about a problematic event, something difficult, but, and this is critical, incorporating elements of self-compassion into the writing itself.
okay, walk us through that. Like, what would that actually sound like? Give us an example.
Okay, let's say you completely bombed a big presentation at work, totally flopped. Instead of just writing, "I'm such a failure, I'll never succeed," self-compassion writing would guide you differently. You might write something like, "Okay, it's tough that the presentation didn't go as planned. That happens. It happens to everyone who takes risks. I feel really disappointed right now, but I'm going to try and treat myself with the same kindness I'd give a friend in this situation. I can learn from what specifically went wrong here, and, one failed presentation doesn't define my entire competence." Cool. Research finds this blend, processing the negative, but framing it with support, non-judgment, is super effective for significantly boosting positive affect, even for people struggling with mental health issues. It stops the writing from just spiraling into rumination.
Ah, that's the key distinction. It's not just documenting the bad feeling, it's a constructive intervention. Okay, so moving beyond the therapeutic side, let's talk clarity. How does writing regularly help us spot those patterns we just miss when things are rattling around in our heads?
Yeah, writing is a profound pattern detector. When thoughts just stay internal, they're fleeting, they're abstract, hard to pin down. But the moment you commit them to paper or screen, they become concrete. They become like measurable data points about your own experience. And this helps reveal those repetitive loops, often unconscious, that shape our days, our reactions. For instance, maybe you start documenting your mood and realize, wow, I get really anxious every Sunday night. Or I feel intensely frustrated every time I get feedback from that specific colleague.
And once you spot the recurring feeling, the pattern, you can start tracing it back to the trigger, right?
Exactly. Journaling helps you pinpoint those specific detonating situations, the triggers. Could be certain comments, specific environments, time pressures, maybe certain people. Things that activate these automatic responses like anger, insecurity, procrastination. And this ability, just identifying the emotional driver behind your actions and reactions, that's a cornerstone of emotional intelligence, because if you can see the pattern, you gain the power to interrupt the loop. You can intervene before that automatic response just takes over.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And this has direct productivity benefits too, right? We hear about brain dumps in systems like bullet journaling. How does that fit in?
Right. The brain dump. It's a quick, pretty unstructured way to use writing just to offload cognitive burden, get stuff out of your head. So throughout the day, an idea pops up, a worrying thought, an urgent task. You capture it immediately, maybe just quick bullet points in your journal or daily log. You capture it, categorize it quickly if needed. This stops those fleeting thoughts from getting lost, but it also keeps your mind clearer, more focused on what you're actually trying to do.
Like clearing RAM on a computer.
Exactly. And then later, you can take those brief notes like, frustration after meeting and expand on them. Maybe in a separate, more reflective journal session later that evening, you could apply self-compassion writing to it or use those cognitive restructuring techniques we'll touch on.
Okay, perfect. So journaling is the foundation. This idea of intentionally shaping our thinking, it leads us perfectly into our second pillar. Shifting focus from the past self to leveraging the future self. For decades, popular psychology kind of peddled this idea that personality was mostly fixed, right? Like you're a product of your childhood, and after maybe age 30, that's kind of it. You're baked.
Oh yeah, that myth of the fixed personality. Thankfully, modern research has pretty thoroughly debunked that. Sure, personality traits do tend to stabilize as we age, they become more consistent, but they absolutely continue to shift and evolve throughout our entire lives. We know roughly, 40 to 60% of personality has a heritable component, yes. But that leaves a huge chunk, the rest, that's dynamically shaped by our environment, by our choices. Things like significant career changes, major relationships starting or ending, moving somewhere new, even deliberately pursuing new skills. All this shapes us. The really critical realization here is that believing we're just a fixed product of our past, that fosters a really self-limiting idea. The idea that intentional, maybe even radical change isn't really on the table for us.
And if you believe that, you basically give up your agency, right? You stop trying. So this perspective shift is about ditching that old deterministic view being pushed by past events and recognizing what the research now suggests, which is that humans are actually powerfully pulled forward by a clear, intentional vision of the person they want to become.
Exactly. That's the bedrock of intentional transformation. And it's the core mechanism behind something called identity-based motivation, or IBM. The power here, the real leverage, is linking your goals not just to some temporary external outcome, but linking them to the person you are fundamentally aspiring to be. Just think about the difference. A result goal might be, I want to finish writing this essay, versus an identity goal. I am a reliable writer who follows through on my commitments. See the difference?
Yeah, big difference. If I set the result goal, okay, maybe I grit my teeth and get the essay done, but it feels like a one-off battle. The result happens, then it dissipates, and next time I have to fight the same battle against procrastination or whatever. But if I adopt the identity, I am this kind of person, the change feels more integrated, more lasting. But wait, if I write my goals in the present tense, like I am an author, but I haven't actually written a single page yet, doesn't that feel a bit like lying to yourself? Self-deception?
That's a really crucial point, and it highlights the pathway of IBM. It's not just about claiming the identity out of thin air. It's about designing your daily actions to prove that identity to yourself every single day, little by little. The goal is to make the identity believable through consistent action. So the pathway starts with the who. First, decide who you want to be. Get clear on that identity. Then you design the daily processes, the habits that let you continually cast votes for that identity. You don't become an author by waiting for some bolt of inspiration. You become an author by showing up and writing, say, 500 words, even if they feel terrible that day. The act is the vote.
Got it. So the identity of an organized person isn't proven by cleaning your room once in a massive effort. It's proven by taking maybe 5 minutes every single night to just put things away, maintain the system, however small. The action reinforces the belief.
Precisely. When your daily actions, your decisions, even your mindset start aligning with that future version of yourself you're aiming for, success almost becomes this natural consequence of authenticity because you're behaving in alignment with your own definition of who you are or who you're becoming. It really echoes that old mandate from the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do.
The identity first, then the action follows. That alignment is the fuel. Okay, so how do we actually strengthen that alignment? How do we make that future self feel more present, more real right now, so it actually influences today's choices?
That's the function of building what psychologists call temporal self-continuity. It's basically the strength of the psychological connection, the perceived overlap between the you right now and the you in the future. And the research here is pretty clear. Experiencing a strong connection with a vividly imagined, maybe somewhat distant future self. That's associated with better performance on tasks. Importantly, an increased willingness to pursue goals that require delayed gratification.
Okay, let's unpack the flip side of that. Delayed gratification and temporal discounting. What happens when that continuity, that connection to the future self, is weak?
Right. When temporal self-continuity is weak, maybe the future self feels abstract, like a stranger, really distant, or just fuzzy, you're far more likely to engage in temporal discounting. Temporal discounting is that common human tendency to value immediate rewards much more highly than future benefits, even if the future benefits are objectively larger. It's that little voice inside that says, I'll start exercising tomorrow, or, ooh, I should definitely buy this shiny thing now, even though I'm supposed to be saving for a house down payment.
Uh-huh.
The present self basically prioritizes its immediate pleasure because it feels disconnected from the consequences that distant, hazy future self will eventually face.
So temporal discounting looks like choosing the instant hit of junk food over the abstract health benefit next year, or clicking buy now on an impulse purchase rather than keeping that money in savings for the future, you who really needs financial security.
Absolutely, that's exactly it. And the visualization and writing techniques we're talking about, they're designed specifically to counteract that powerful cognitive bias. We need to make the future self feel psychologically closer, more present, more real now. Some methods for strengthening this bridge include things like writing a detailed letter from your future self, say, 10 years from now to your present self, offering guidance, maybe celebrating successes achieved, perhaps warning against specific pitfalls to avoid. Other things, physically drawing a picture of your desired future reality, or having a detailed, imagined conversation with that future version of yourself, asking them questions. These exercises use these perceptual cues of nearness, of vividness, to make the future feel more intrinsically linked to your present choices. And when that link is stronger, temporal discounting decreases, and it motivates you to take action today that aligns with that future self.
Making the future self a stakeholder in today's decisions.
Exactly. Okay, so if the future self provides that essential motivational pull, then structured goal achievement gives us the roadmap. And, maybe more importantly, the defense against the inevitable obstacles. Goal setting isn't just about vague dreaming, right? It's about providing clear direction, focus. And studies show commitment is usually strongest when your goals are specific and, interestingly, difficult but still achievable, not impossible.
Right. People often get paralyzed by the sheer scale of a big ambition, though. Breaking goals down into manageable timeframes feels essential to stop from just getting overwhelmed and quitting.
Oh, it's absolutely critical. That structure is what prevents the overwhelm. We often recommend dividing your ambitions into roughly 3 timeframes. Short-term goals, what you're aiming for in, say, the next 12 months. Medium-term goals, maybe spanning 1 to 3 years, setting those larger milestones. And then long-term goals, anything really beyond 3 years. And these often focus more on that broader identity vision we talked about. And within all those timeframes, we use that little psychological trick. Always write your goals in the present tense.
Ah, yes, the present tense again. It reinforces that identity-based motivation immediately. You're embodying the change now. So instead of, I will be good at public speaking someday, it's, I am excelling at public speaking.
Yeah.
Even if you're just starting.
Precisely. You start internalizing the identity right away. It primes the pump. Now, before we jump into planning for obstacles, we should probably acknowledge the basic structure that most people know. The SMART acronym. Specific, measurable, achievable, or actionable, realistic or relevant, and timely. It's a good foundation, ensures the goal is at least well-defined and quantifiable. Basic hygiene for goal setting.
Okay, so SMART goals give us the target. But they don't really give us the armor, do they, for when the obstacles inevitably pop up? And that brings us to this really practical intervention tool, the WHOOP framework.
Ah, whoop-whoop-ee. Yes. It's genuinely one of the most effective research-backed tools out there for bridging that gap between just wanting something and actually doing it. It stands for Wish, Outcome, Obstacle, and Plan. Its scientific name is Mental Contrasting with Implementation Intentions, or MCII. A bit of a mouthful.
MCII. Okay, ropey is better.
Much better. Now, when we talk about effectiveness, it's important to be realistic. The research generally shows it has what's called a small to medium effect size on goal attainment.
Okay, put that in context for us. Small to medium effect size. What does that actually mean in practical terms for someone listening?
It means, look, this isn't some magic bullet. It won't solve everything overnight, but it does provide a statistically reliable and significant boost. For the average person, using WOO consistently when setting goals roughly doubles their probability of following through and sticking with it. Compared to people who just do positive thinking or set general goals without this structure, it's a reliable self-regulation tool.
Doubling your chances. That sounds pretty significant to me. Okay, let's break down the 4 steps, starting with W and O.
Okay. Step 1, wish. Choose one main focus area, career, health, learning, relationship, whatever, and state the desired outcome clearly, present tense preferably. For example, I successfully complete the first draft of my novel. That's the wish. Step 2, outcome. Now, visualize and describe what success looks and feels like. Use maybe 2 to 4 evocative, emotional, or sensory words like proud, confident, focused, energized. You need to really connect with the positive feeling of achieving it.
Okay, wish and outcome, positive focus. But here's where WOP pivots, right?
Yeah,
And avoids that trap of just pure positive thinking. Why isn't just visualizing the positive outcome enough? What happens if people stop after step 2?
Yeah, this is the crucial insight from the research, pioneered by Gabrielle Oudingen. Thinking only about the positive outcome, what she calls mental indulgence or pure wishful thinking, can actually backfire. By vividly imagining success, your brain often releases some of those satisfaction chemicals associated with actually achieving the goal. It kind of tricks the brain into feeling like the goal's already been met or is easily within reach. And ironically, this can sap the energy, the motivational drive you actually need to do the hard work. WOP forces a reality check with step 3.
Step 3 forces us to confront the friction, the reality.
Exactly. Step 3, obstacle. Now you identify the main internal obstacle that stands in the way of your wish. It has to be internal, something within you. Procrastination, fear of failure, feeling too tired, getting distracted easily. You have to be brutally honest here. And then vividly visualize this obstacle standing directly between you and your wish. Really see it, feel it.
Okay, face the demon. And then step 4 is the plan of attack, the defense mechanism.
That's it. Step 4, plan. This uses what are called implementation intentions. You formulate a very specific if-then plan to navigate that obstacle you just identified. The if part is the anticipated trigger or the obstacle showing up. The then part is your pre-committed automatic response. This creates a strong mental link, a shortcut, that helps bypass decision fatigue or willpower failure when that obstacle actually appears in real life.
Okay, this if-then planning feels super practical. Can we give a few more varied, concrete examples for different life areas? Because this is where people can really grab onto it.
Absolutely. Let's brainstorm a few. Health diet. Obstacle is maybe grabbing fast food when tired. The plan. If I arrive home exhausted after 7 p.m., then I will immediately grab the pre-cut veggies from the fridge and start the 5-minute meal I planned.
Okay, very specific.
Creative work. Obstacle is maybe perfectionism leading to procrastination on writing. Plan. If I feel the urge to check social media after writing for just 15 minutes, then I will close all browser tabs and commit to writing just one more sentence, even if it feels clunky.
Lowering the bar to keep momentum. I like that.
Financial planning. Obstacle could be impulsive online shopping. Plan. If I see an email notification for a big sale from my favorite store, then I will immediately open my savings tracker app before clicking the email link. Short circuits the impulse.
Nice. One more, maybe interpersonal.
Boundary setting. Obstacle is maybe conflict avoidance, always saying yes. Plan. If my colleague asks me to take on extra work that conflicts with my main priorities, then I will respond, let me check my schedule and get back to you in 30 minutes, giving myself space to avoid an automatic yes.
Those are fantastic. They really show how it automates the response, takes the active decision-making out of that moment of weakness or temptation. Okay, so we whoop our goal, we execute the plan, but then how do we keep it going? Sustain the action, make habits sticky after the initial motivation fades?
Yeah, sustainability is key. This is where we lean heavily on the behavioral science of habits. First, as we kind of learn from habit formation research, you need to engineer some immediate satisfaction when you perform the desired behavior. This is often called the fourth law of habit formation. Make it satisfying immediately.
But what kind of satisfaction works best? It needs to be quick and powerful enough to counteract the fact that the real goal might be far off, right?
Yeah, exactly. The satisfaction should ideally be sensory, immediate, and feel intrinsically linked to finishing the action. For instance, you finish a tough writing session. Maybe you immediately put on your absolute favorite song. Or treat yourself to that specific high-quality tea you save for these moments. You complete a difficult task at work. You instantly mark it off on a really nice habit tracker, get that little dopamine hit of ticking the box. The key is immediacy. The reward, the satisfaction, has to hit within seconds of completing the habit to really strengthen that neurological loop. Beyond that, yeah, using accountability tools helps a lot. Visible progress tracking, maybe an accountability partner you check in with, or even a formal habit contract where there's a social or maybe even financial cost if you break the commitment. Add some teeth. But honestly, the single most crucial rule for sustaining change, especially when you inevitably slip up: recover quickly. The mantra is never miss twice. One missed day is a lapse. 2 missed days starts to become a new pattern. Minimize the damage, get back on track immediately, keep the identity intact.
Never miss twice. That's a great simple rule. Okay, this brings us right to making all this super practical, like starting today. Journaling is that foundational tool, right? It connects the identity, the goals, the goal planning.
Yes.
Can be a simple capture device like the brain dump or this powerful reflective tool. Where's a good place to start daily?
A really simple, high-leverage place to start is with daily intention setting. First thing in the morning, it just provides immediate clarity and focus before the day's chaos hits. Can be as simple as setting one single word for the day, maybe patience, or focus, or a short mantra, or one mini goal for the next 8 hours. Just writing it down, seeing it, keeps you anchored. Helps you be proactive rather than just reacting to whatever the day throws at you.
Love that. Okay, next big use. Tackling the deep resistance. Those self-limiting beliefs we all carry around. We internalize criticism from years ago, sometimes just run it like background code. You mentioned cognitive behavioral therapy. CBT offers a structure for challenging these through writing. Cognitive restructuring.
Exactly. Cognitive restructuring is a core CBT technique, perfect for journaling. First step is just identification, catching the belief when it pops up. They often surface in specific areas, maybe self-worth, I don't deserve this, abilities, I'm just not smart enough for that, or resources, I never have enough time or money. Once you've caught one, you subject it to rigorous reality testing right there in your journal.
Okay, reality testing.
Yeah.
How does that actually play out on the page? What questions do you ask?
You actively challenge the evidence that seems to support that negative thought. You ask probing questions like, is the evidence I have for this belief really reliable? Is it accurate? What are the objective facts here versus my interpretation or feeling about the facts? And crucially, you have to actively search for counter-evidence, evidence that contradicts the negative belief. So if the belief is, I'm always disorganized, you deliberately list times you were organized, successfully managed a project, planned a trip, even just organized one drawer effectively. The goal is shifting focus from just dwelling on past proof of the negative belief to objectively evaluating what's actually true and possible today. And ask yourself, am I treating one single past failure as if it permanently defines my entire being? Usually the answer is yes, and seeing that helps deflate the belief.
Right, challenging that generalization. Okay, and the final step is finding a more balanced, realistic perspective. Can you maybe walk us through the full, 4-step cognitive restructuring process someone could use in their journal tonight?
Sure, it's pretty straightforward. 1, record the automatic negative thought. Just get it out of your head, write it down exactly as it sounds. 2, identify the hot thought. What's the core, most painful or impactful part of that negative statement? Example, I'm definitely going to fail this project. 3, find evidence for and against the hot thought. This is the objective reality testing we just talked about. Be fair to both sides. 4, find a more balanced thought. Based on the evidence, what's a more realistic, helpful, and less extreme way to think about the situation? The reframe. Example, okay, this project is challenging, but I have successfully handled similar tasks before, and I can break it down and take it one step at a time.
That's a really clear, actionable process. Thank you. Another technique you mentioned is directly confronting that negative self-talk, that inner critic voice.
Yeah.
Often feels like it's running on an old, inherited script.
Oh, absolutely. And a really powerful reframing tool here is simply to ask yourself, do I speak to myself in the exact same way I would speak to someone I genuinely care about, like my best friend, my child, a family member going through the same thing?
Yeah.
The answer is almost always a resounding no. We're usually far harsher on ourselves, and just recognizing that disparity immediately exposes how irrational, how cruel that inner critic often is. So then the next step is take those nasty critical statements you identified and consciously rewrite them. Rewrite them into the supportive, compassionate, positive affirmations you would actually say to a friend. It helps retrain that internal dialogue over time.
Changing the internal soundtrack. Okay, let's tie this cognitive work back explicitly to our identity focus. We need some journal prompts that really encourage the mindset of the future self, reinforcing that temporal self-continuity day by day.
Yes, these prompts are designed to be short, actionable, and keep that future identity front and center. Here are a few examples you could use daily or weekly. 1, affirmation. Start with an identity statement. My actions today represent the person I am actively becoming, just stating it. 2, shifting a pattern. Focus on intentional change. Today I will focus consciously on shifting my pattern of maybe prioritizing instant gratification over my future self's needs, or perhaps avoiding difficult conversations.
Making it specific for the day.
3, gratitude. List maybe 3 to 5 things you're genuinely grateful for, and really push beyond the obvious big stuff. Look for subtle, small, maybe unexpected things. The patience I managed to show with that difficult client today, or learning something valuable from that mistake I made at work. Gratitude broadens perspective, fights scarcity thinking.
Good point.
4. Future vision. Connect to the growth. The person I'm becoming will experience more. Fill in the blank. Self-growth, financial freedom, intellectual alignment, resilience, calm. 5. Current opportunity. Identify a specific action today. I have an opportunity to be my future self today when I, maybe. Meditate before reacting. Follow through on that promise I made. Say no to a low-priority request that drains me. Connects identity to immediate action. 6. Emotional check. Link the identity to motivation. When I think about who I'm becoming, I feel confident, motivated, calm, capable, anxious. Explore the feeling.
Using those 6 prompts regularly sounds like it provides structure, accountability, and that continuous reinforcement we need to bridge the gap between who we are now and who we want to be. Okay, final point on journaling. Beyond the daily stuff, it's also the perfect place to reflect on our core values, right? What really matters to us.
Absolutely essential. If you don't consciously define your own personal criteria for success and meaning, believe me, the world will happily define them for you, often in ways that don't truly fit. A really powerful way to uncover your genuine guiding principles is to ask yourself in your journal, when have I felt genuinely proud of my actions? Not just successful, but proud. Analyzing those specific moments, what were you doing? Why did it feel good? That reveals your core values in action. Maybe it was integrity, creativity, courage, kindness, contribution. And then you can use the journal to ask the alignment question. Do my current goals, the way I spend my time, truly reflect these deepest desires? How consistently am I advocating for myself and for these values? This kind of deeper, identity-focused journaling promotes profound self-acceptance, mindfulness, and ultimately helps build a more authentic, fulfilling life based on what you value.
That's a powerful connection. Okay, let's try and synthesize this whole deep dive.
Sounds good. So to kind of wrap it up, we've really established that intentional, lasting change is not some passive thing just driven by your past, not at all. It's an active process, a process of self-creation, you could say, connecting vividly to your future self, consciously shaping that desired identity that provides the crucial motivational pull, the why. That pull helps you overcome the powerful drag of temporal discounting, choosing now over later, and journaling. That emerges as the indispensable self-regulatory tool. It's where you find the patterns, challenge the limiting beliefs using things like cognitive restructuring, and it's where you implement practical strategies like the WOP framework to actively plan for and overcome the inevitable friction and obstacles.
Yeah, and remembering that foundational idea we talked about early on, success isn't really about reaching some single fixed external end state, like I've arrived. It's much more about the continuous alignment of your daily processes, those tiny changes, the small votes you cast every day, aligning them with the person you intend to become. That's what leads to those remarkable results over time. It's truly the process, the being, not just the final product, that shapes and confirms the identity.
Well said. And if you really reflect on that, you start to realize that things like self-determination, even happiness, they seem to be promoted more when you focus on your personal gains. What you have achieved, how far you've grown from your own starting point, rather than constantly measuring yourself against external ideals or comparing yourself to others. That comparison often creates that unhelpful, demoralizing focus on the gap, the distance between you and some perceived ideal. Focusing on progress feels much better.
Right. Which leaves us with this final provocative thought for you, the listener, to maybe explore this week, perhaps in your own journal. If true success, if fulfillment, is rooted in defining your own criteria and embracing authenticity, what is one major goal you have right now that you could reframe today? Shifting it from being just an external result you're chasing, like I want to publish a book or I want to lose 20 pounds, into being a core, intentional part of your identity. Something like, I am a consistent and dedicated writer, or I am a person who nourishes my body with healthy choices. Think less about the final achievement and more about the being. Who are you becoming through the process?